The headlines said the Fever won, and Caitlin Clark nearly had a double-double. But if you're here, you know the real story is never just the box score. What happened in that Indiana locker room changed everything. On paper, the Indiana Fever's 99-82 victory over the Atlanta Dream looked like a routine win. Caitlin Clark finished just shy of a double-double, tallying 12 points and 9 assists, while Kelsey Mitchell led the team with 25 points. The box score told a story of balanced scoring, efficient shooting, and a team finally clicking on offense. But for those who watched closely, something felt different. The energy on the court was palpable, the ball movement was crisp, and the players seemed more connected than at any point this season. The headlines the next morning were predictable. Fever win, Clark shines. But those headlines missed the real drama. They didn't mention the tension simmering beneath the surface, the frustration that had been building for weeks, or the quiet conversations that set the stage for a mid-game transformation. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement. And for those willing to look past the numbers, it was clear that something fundamental had shifted within the team. The chemistry was different. The confidence was visible, and the way the players celebrated together hinted at a deeper story. But what exactly happened to spark this turnaround? The answer starts with a single, frustrated voice in the locker room. The Indiana Fever season had been defined by inconsistency and mounting frustration. After a string of disappointing losses, head coach Stephanie White publicly questioned her team's heart, saying she was disappointed because I felt like there was a lack of competitive fire. That's not the kind of comment players or fans take lightly. The pressure was mounting, and the locker room atmosphere was tense. Players were tired of the same old results and the same old system. The sense of urgency was growing, and it was clear that something had to give. The team's veterans, especially those who had experienced both winning and losing seasons, felt the weight of expectations. They knew the talent was there, but the chemistry and execution were missing. The frustration wasn't just about losing games. It was about feeling stuck in a system that wasn't working. The players wanted change, but change rarely comes from the top down in the middle of a season. Instead, it often starts with a single voice willing to challenge the status quo. And that voice belonged to Sophie Cunningham, who was about to make her feelings known in a way that would set the stage for everything that followed. The tension was thick enough to feel, and the team's body language and warm-ups said it all. Something had to break, and soon. Sophie Cunningham, known for her energy and leadership, decided enough was enough. Before the Fever's matchup with the Dream, she broke ranks and went to the media with a message that couldn't be ignored. We're running out of time. It's gonna light a fire under our butts, so hopefully you're gonna see that energy shift tomorrow. On the surface, it sounded like standard player speak. But for those paying attention, it was a clear challenge to the team's approach. Cunningham wasn't just promising to play harder, she was calling out the entire system. Her words were a public declaration that the status quo was no longer acceptable. She was telling everyone, from her teammates to the coaching staff, that something had to change. This wasn't just about effort, it was about philosophy. Cunningham's words lit a match, and the first half of the game would provide the kindling. The team's response to her challenge would reveal whether they were ready to take control of their own destiny or remain stuck in a failing system. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation between old habits and new resolve. Cunningham's leadership in that moment was a spark, and everyone in the locker room knew it. Change was coming, one way or another. The first half against the Atlanta Dream was a disaster for the Fever. The official game plan, whatever it was, simply wasn't working. Atlanta's Jordan Canada exploded for 26 points in just 2 quarters, torching the Fever's defense and hitting 6 three-pointers. The Fever looked lost, disjointed, and reactive. The competitive fire that Coach White had called for was nowhere to be found. The team trailed 45-40 at halftime, and the scoreboard only told part of the story. The real issue was the system itself. The offense was stagnant, the defense was porous, and the players looked frustrated and out of sync. The problems Cunningham had hinted at were on full display, and the evidence was undeniable. The coach's strategy had been tested for a full 20 minutes and had failed spectacularly. For the players, this was rock bottom, a moment of truth that demanded a response. The locker room at halftime was about to be the site of a quiet rebellion as the team faced a choice: stick with what wasn't working or take matters into their own hands. The crowd's restlessness and the players' visible frustration made it clear the Fever needed a new direction, and fast. We may never know the exact words spoken in the Fever's locker room at halftime, but the evidence of what happened is written all over the second half. Trailing at home, after a public challenge from one of their own, the players knew something had to change. The coach's system had failed, and the time for waiting was over. In that moment, a quiet pact was made, a decision to abandon the status quo and trust their own instincts. The players took control of the offense, deciding to put the ball in Caitlin Clark's hands and let her run the offense. This wasn't a minor tactical tweak. It was a fundamental shift in philosophy. The team chose to play to their strengths, to trust each other, and to play the game their way. The halftime meeting became a turning point, not just for the game, but for the entire season. The Fever emerged from the locker room with a new sense of purpose, ready to prove that they could win on their own terms. The adjustment was about to pay off in spectacular fashion. The energy in the tunnel as they returned to the court was different, focused, determined, and united in a way that hadn't been seen all year. The most significant change in the second half was simple but profound. Caitlin Clark became the true floor general. The offense ran through her, and the results were immediate. Clark's vision, creativity, and ability to bend defenses opened up opportunities for everyone on the floor. She finished with 9 assists, but that number doesn't capture the full impact she had on the game. Clark's presence forced the Dream to adjust their defense, creating wide-open looks for her teammates. Sophie Cunningham, the player who had lit the match, responded with a double-double of her own. 16 points and 10 rebounds, including 4 crucial three-pointers. Kelsey Mitchell, often stifled in a stagnant offense, was unleashed, pouring in a team-high 25 points. The Fever's offense exploded for 59 points in the second half, turning a 5-point deficit into a blowout win. This wasn't an accident. The players had made a conscious decision to trust Clark and each other, and the results spoke for themselves. The adjustment wasn't just about X's and O's. It was about trust, belief, and the willingness to seize control of their own destiny. The offensive explosion was the result of a team finally playing for each other, and the impact was felt on both ends of the floor. The crowd fed off the energy, and the Fever's bench was electric, cheering every play as the momentum became unstoppable. The offensive turnaround was dramatic, but the defensive transformation was just as impressive. With the offense finally clicking, the Fever's energy carried over to the other end of the court. Caitlin Clark, who had taken control of the offense, also took on the toughest defensive assignment, guarding the red-hot Jordan Canada. The result was one of the most stunning defensive turnarounds you'll ever see. After scoring 26 points in the first half, Canada was held to just 4 in the second, with Clark shadowing her every move. The rest of the team followed Clark's lead, rotating faster, closing out harder, and playing with a sense of urgency that had been missing all season. The Dream, who had looked unstoppable in the first half, suddenly appeared confused and out of rhythm. The Fever's plus-minus numbers soared, and the team's defensive stats told the story of a group finally playing with purpose and pride. Clark's leadership on both ends of the floor set the tone, and the rest of the team responded in kind. The win was a testament to what can happen when players take ownership of their performance. The defensive stops fueled fast breaks, and the Fever's hustle plays brought the crowd to their feet. This win was more than just another notch in the standings. It was a turning point for the Indiana Fever and a potential crossroads for Coach Stephanie White. For weeks, fans and analysts had questioned whether her system was the right fit for a generational talent like Caitlin Clark. The team's struggles had fueled speculation about her future, and this game only intensified the debate. The players' decision to take control of the offense and the undeniable success that followed raises uncomfortable questions for the coaching staff. How do you go back to the old way of doing things after such a clear demonstration of what works? Can a coach maintain authority when the players have just provided 24 minutes of proof that their way is better? The outcome of this internal power struggle could shape the future of the franchise. One thing is clear: the players have found their voice, and the rest of the NBA is officially on notice.